We're in, everybody, the feature match area. There's Peleg on your left, former world champion from Israel, and Rob Castellon from the United States on his right. And we are quickly underway. 2 basic lands. We don't see that. Look at this. First 3 lands are all basic lands, Brian.
Well, I told you, again, Peleg's playing blue-white control. Very classic, very straightforward, not a lot of shock lands, isn't doing a lot of damage to himself. And look at that, you see a Renounce the Guilds.
Get out.
Have a token.
Oh, you have one? Okay.
My turn?
Yeah.
And Rashad makes an appearance. Yeah, Rashad is in our ears, of course, bragging about that token.
Well, that's the Rashad tip in his hat one too. Okay, so he's searched for the Rakdos Guild Gate.
Rob Castellon, by the way, is a 24-year-old PTQ winner from Concord in the U.S. And there we see Gate Creeper Vine and make a 2/2 token. Get in there.
Go ahead.
I mean, certainly the only thing cooler on the board than the Mirko Vosk sleeves is the Rashad Miller token. There's Sin Collector from Rob Castellon. So he wants to lay threats on, strip Peleg's hand of relevant board control spells.
5.
Sure.
This is a Jund homebrew, as it's been described.
So we see Render Silent. We see Cyclonic Rift.
There you go.
We see Plains. We see an Azorius Charm. Can't quite see what the one in the middle is.
Supreme Verdict.
Is that a Supreme Verdict? Yeah, it sure is.
And just while we're looking at hands, let's take a look at what's going on in Castellon's hand. We see he's got a Centaur Healer, a Blood Baron, an Angel of Serenity, and 2 Abrupt Decays.
This is removed, right?
Exile, yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Attack for
So
3.
he takes the Azorius Charm. Why do you think he did that?
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I guess he was worried about losing his token there that turn. He wanted to get the damage in.
Okay.
Not too worried about Supreme
there's,
Verdict.
and there's the Supreme Verdict. Say goodbye to Rashad Miller for what we hope is just a little while.
There's a Centaur
23.
Healer.
There's a Centaur Healer right back at you.
Go.
Land go for Peleg.
Voice of Resurgence gets the Render Silent.
Of course, that means he can't.
Oh, I'm sorry, gets the, yeah. Render
Yeah,
Silent.
Render Silent. Means he can't spell. He can't play any more spells the rest of the turn.
Go.
And Peleg just playing land go.
Well, I mean, he doesn't really have that much going on at this point. He's got a Cyclonic Rift and an island.
21.
All right, Centaur getting in.
And there's the Blood Baron.
Yeah, the Blood Baron
Go ahead.
can be kind of awkward. I mean, we know that
Go.
Ori has
Attack set.
that Cyclonic Rift, but he'll probably eat some here before panic. He's not gonna panic too fast. Of course, he's at 9, so
Fair to panic.
he's got to be pretty steely.
You gotta be thinking about breaking the glass right now.
Darwin Castle has taken his game 1 from Igor Kotasevich on one of the back tables.
You know, Darwin Castle, yet another in a long line of Hall of Famers doing well this weekend.
In all seriousness, I did say I thought that a Hall of Famer was going to top 8 this weekend.
Yeah.
And I mean, look at Bob Marr is running. Darwin is running hot. Shuhei Nakamura is at 18 points. Gabe Nassif is at 18 points.
28.
28. Go.
It's a Centaur Healer.
And another Supreme Verdict.
But Uri is at 5 and sort of out of gas.
Castellon's at 28 and got a handful of cards.
26.
And he's
Goes to
gonna
26.
play Angel of Serenity and just pick up a bunch of cards from his graveyard.
Yeah.
So in case that Ori gets rid of it,
Voice of Resurgence, Baron, and Voice of Resurgence. from the
Yeah,
Department of Redundancy Department.
Okay, so Rob Castellon takes game 1 from Uri Peleg in this match of the final 2 undefeateds in our field. What's the sideboard plan look like here, Brian?
Well, a sideboard plan for the minute is Castellon, is what I'm told by Eric Levine.
Castellon.
Castellon. And he's a level 2 judge from Kittery,
Maine.
Maine.
That's a long way up in the frozen north. Castellon.
So all I know about your deck is that it plays blue lands and white lands.
Looking to face a greater challenge? Take your game to a Grand Prix and see how you fare against the best players in your region, as well as top visiting Magic pros. Upcoming Grand Prix include Guadalajara, Gothenburg, Providence, Houston, Bangkok, and Las Vegas. For more information, visit wizards.com/Grand Prix. That Modern Masters is going to be a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It really is. So interestingly, looking at the sideboard for Rob Castellon, he's got Maze Zend in his sideboard.
What?
He does. He has 1 Maze Zend in his sideboard, but he does not have 10 Guildgates in his deck. He's just playing it as a value card against those control decks, as a Thawing Glaciers.
Interesting.
Maybe going in hand with some of his sideboard choices. So, he doesn't really have any red in here, but, we see something like a Slaughter Games. He has 4 Slaughter Games in his board. He may want to be able to access that red mana more readily with the Slaughter Games. Interesting card in his main deck that we haven't mentioned, we didn't see it come up, is Alms Beast.
Alms Beast, I mean, it's the Sun Titan variant, right?
Yeah. No, that's Treasury Thrill.
Right,
Alms Beast is just the fatty variant.
the 6/6. Oh, the things blocking it get life.
Yeah, whatever. Have a little life.
Have some life. I'm 6/6.
No. So yeah, I think we could see. I think we'll see the Slaughter Games here.
And certainly the Aetherling would be the primary target for
Sure,
that.
Aetherling, Sphinx's Revelation, depending on where you are in the game. Yeah.
Anything you expect to see out of Uri's sideboard? I mean, he's got some precinct captains to go on a beatdown plan. He's got another Aetherling. He's got an Aetherize, which, I mean, that really sets the aggressive decks back a long way.
Aetherize is not a card you're expecting to see. So I like that card. He could go on a beatdown plan. Well, let's take a look at what Deadbridge Chant does. We were talking about that card. And I really just wanted to hear that sound again.
Right.
Deadbridge Chant is, as you see, it's a 6 mana enchantment that lets you return a card from your graveyard every turn. It's like, this is a nightmare card for a control deck if it resolves.
Even if it's random, because what you're playing is nothing but value anyway, you're going to get something great back every turn, whether you Supreme Verdict it or not.
Right, and so like in green, white, in junk mirrors, this card is going to be phenomenal because you're just gonna have this tremendous advantage. And then we talked about this earlier, the idea that if you can empty your graveyard,
you just get the same thing back.
You just start to get making like people say abrupt decay that, get my abrupt decay back, abrupt decay that.
Right. Yeah, good card in the block constructed environment.
I feel like we've barely scratched the surface of this card. I think this is,
Well, it certainly would have some scavenge uses.
Yeah.
Dump bunch of big things in there and regrow them.
I mean, people like putting things into their graveyards. We see this
Right.
all the time. And again, with a card like Deathrite Shaman, you get to manipulate some of the cards in your graveyard. I'm excited to see what people do with this.
Well,
it's a 1-card reanimate. Like, if you can somehow deal with some cards in your graveyard, right? Like, again, with Deathrite Shaman or other ways of cremating things or whatever, it's a single card reanimation combo, right? It's like put the stuff in my graveyard and then put something into play.
Yeah, I think one of the things it's important to point out here as we're playing through block constructed here. This is a little bit of a view of what Standard is going to look like in a few months. There's a lot of the strategies here in block constructed that we're going to see when
the Innistrad block rotates out. Yeah. When the werewolves finally retreat into the night.
Go back to London.
Yeah.
And drinking pina coladas at Trader Vic's.
I think they're staying at Rich's.
Yeah. All right, looks like Castellon has gone to 6.
Okay.
I'll keep also.
Go.
And Uri Peleg on the start. Okay, unlike last game, we've got ETB tapped lands.
What are these guys doing to me?
ETB, of course, short 4, enters the battlefield.
18.
Yeah.
Castellon
Go.
There is the voice of research.
comes with the voice of resurgence.
Draw.
Yep.
Cycling the Azorius Charm is Uri Peleg. Drops land, says go.
There you get a look at voice of resurgence whenever an opponent casts a spell during your turn,
16.
which is what the control decks love to do.
Right.
You get to put a green and white elemental creature token into the battlefield with, you know, star essentially,
Right.
equal to the number of creatures in play. And
Creatures you control.
creatures you control. Sorry, I should say that.
There's a Sin Collector for Rob Castellon. Taking a look at Uri Peleg's hand.
Did that whiff? Yeah.
18. Go ahead.
No spells. That's what I want to see when I look at a control player's hand.
Yeah, I think I don't
But
care.
it looks like he just top decked Supreme Verdict.
I don't care if I whiff. If you don't have any spells.
Go.
Attackers.
All right, we're going to attack in with the Sin Collector and the Voice of Resurgent. Going
Let's
to drop Uri Peleg
Let's
down
take a look
to
at Peleg's
15.
hand. So you see that he was holding Aetherling, Angel of Serenity, Angel of Serenity. He's drawn the Supreme
14.
Verdict. He has two planes in a hand.
Check that. That's Peleg to 14.
And
six
get a
cards.
look at what Castellon's doing. He's got
Shocks
that
himself
Alms
again.
Beast. He's probably going to play that Celestia Charm, or is he going to slaughter games here? No.
Go.
He chooses the Alms Beast, and he's going to get 3 for 1.
On the
sort of.
Supreme Verdict.
Gets his token.
Right, he gets his token. And once again, Rashad Miller back into the feature match area.
Aether one.
Now there's the Slaughter Games, and
Read the card.
even before
Yeah. Okay, sure.
Uri Peleg responds, he says Aetherling.
Oh, and he gets one.
He gets one out of his hand that Uri had just drawn. And he's going to go in and see how many more he has.
And he has a little more than
You have
most.
another one in your hand?
If
No, I just actually can't beat an Aetherling.
if Uri has
I'm just fixing some of your cards that are upside down.
Oh, thanks.
Ever the judge. You can take the boy out of the judge shirt, but you can't take the judge shirt out
off
of the boy.
yeah.
Are they good? I didn't know they're that good against you. So I shuffle, right?
Yeah.
So only 2 of them. So he sided one out.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
He's 3. He runs 3
He
main
goes
deck,
on 3, yeah.
and he sided one out.
Two Angel of Serenities in hand.
I mean, once Uri gets to
Extra
7
one.
mana, that could be
So I go to 13.
trouble,
Go ahead.
because that's just a beatdown plan, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm looking for how many ways he has to kill that. Not a lot.
I play Jace.
There's Jace, Architect of Thought, that
+1, so it's 5.
Uri has chosen to +1. Oh, there we go. When you're gonna put a die on Jace, you're gonna put a die on Jace. Another Voice of Resurgence. And Rashad Miller will attack
Go ahead.
Jace, Architect of Thought. Knocks it down to 4 counters. Here comes an Angel.
Play Angel.
He's gonna take out the token and the voice.
And I'm -2 Jace.
He's gonna.
And he's like, I'm going to start drawing some
Yeah, I want to draw
cards.
some cards. Mini Factor Fiction. There's a Sphinx's Revelation, another Jace, and a Syncopate underneath. And obviously the Sphinx's Revelation goes into the pile by itself. You still take the Revelation in this situation?
I mean, I like having that syncopate, honestly.
I take this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm done.
Exile.
Okay. So
Oh,
just close
wow.
your hand.
That goes,
Is
yep.
exile? What does it say?
Exile a creature with power 5 or greater.
So Celestia Charm
Says, get out.
doing some work.
Here's Guildgate.
Yeah.
and the voice that has just been bounced back to his hand. Little does he know, Uri's going to come back.
Well, he knows.
Oh, he does know. He's just looking at his hand, right? Lot does he know.
Yeah.
-2 Jace.
Yep.
Get rid of my Jace. Oh, there's a Liev Sky Knight that he brought in from the sideboard.
Yeah, I saw him playing that in an earlier match, and it was doing some work.
Yeah.
Cards.
And that's another Jace to go with the island.
So Jace Island or Liev Sky Knight. Pick a pile, Sheldon.
Jace Island?
Guess.
Sounds like a magic reality game show. Welcome to Jace Island.
Starring Ricardo Montalban and Hervé Velachaise.
Sorry.
They go on.
Wait, Jace.
Oh,
Or he's playing a little.
I'm confused.
This is going to the bottom from
Yeah,
Jason.
okay, sorry.
Okay, there we go.
There.
And
Probably just play another Jace here, right? Or do you want your Angel of Serenity?
Life totals are 13 for Peleg, 14 for Castellon.
just play
Looks like it's the Jace. I mean, he's Uri's not in any imminent threat from the Voice of Resurgence.
Right.
+1.
Peleg also with a Renounce the Guilds in his hand now. +1's the Jace. I'll knock it down. Guildgate, Boros Guildgate for Rob Castellon.
So -2.
He's going to -2 and draw some more cards.
There's a Supreme Verdict.
And 2 lands. Plains Island, Supreme Verdict. He's going to take the Supreme Verdict, of course. His land situation being pretty healthy at the moment. I mean,
That is a fistful of cards there.
yeah, that's a. I mean, the aggressive play is to play the land, to play the to play the angel. I mean, he's already got a hand full. Does he really want to cast the Sphinx's Revelation?
All right, we're gonna renounce the guilds. Takes out the
How many cards?
4.
4 cards. We get a look at those 4 cards.
Sire of Insanity, Selesnya Charm, Deathbridge Chant, and Godless Shrine. He has the mana to cast the Deathbridge Chant, but he also knows that Uri has the Syncopate.
So he's gonna get it with.
Syncopate?
He's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
it's a you have to counter
Yeah,
this.
yeah. So he's hoping that he can resolve his Deadbridge Chant next turn. And go into Debtor's Knell mode.
+1.
He's going to plus up the Jace now. Still has that Sphinx Revelation.
Go.
And from one of the back tables, we get the report that Patrick Chapin and Matt Nass are tied at 1 game apiece.
And Zvi Moshowitz is up 1 game on
Put the top 10
Eric
cards
Froelich.
in the graveyard. Okay. Yeah, it resolves anyway, so I'm just reading it.
He's reading the Deadbridge Chant.
All right, so we're going to get 10 cards into the graveyard of
So, Angel,
Rob
Baron,
Castellon.
Pitching Needle, Goliath, Reaper, Guard.
Oh, you see a Pithing Needle in there.
Go ahead.
End of turn.
Oh. Renounce the guilds.
Renounce.
Takes out the Deadbridge Chant. These cards look very good in. It's another reason to play blue-white controls. You get to renounce the guilds, where a lot of the other decks can't do
Can't.
that.
+1 Jace, and then go.
Sin Collector.
Sin Collector
in
coming down
response,
from Rob Castellon.
Revelation for 7.
Ori is going to respond with a Revelation for 7.
Ooh.
He's going to take him back up to 20 and fill up his hand. Sure, Rob's going to get something out of it, but at the same time, it's still going to be full.
Yeah, it looks like a Jace.
Azorius Charm, Sky Knight, 2 Azorius Charms, a few lands, and a Supreme Verdict.
Yeah.
With Peleg at 20 and Castellon at 9, not looking good for
No,
our friend from Kittery, Maine. I mean, he may have some comeback capability with the... no, actually, it doesn't look like he's got any comeback capability at all here. Peleg taking a look there at Castellon's.
Look at that. His hand, you know, versus this.
Sure.
Supreme Verdict is what Castellon takes away.
Yep.
And he's going to Selesnya Charm away the Angel again. Or a second time, I guess I should say. Now
So
Peleg looking at his options. He's going to -2 Jace. But once again, mini Factor Fiction. We see Supreme Verdict.
Renounce the guilds.
We see another Renounce the Guilds. And is that a Dispel?
I think it might be, yeah.
You have no cards?
Yep, it is.
2 sideboard Dispels from Uri Peleg.
Yes, I take this.
He's going to take Renounce the Guilds. Renounce the Guilds, each player has to sacrifice a multicolored permanent.
Yep.
If you're not playing multicolored
Sign it,
permanents, it's a pretty good card.
Thailand. And 4, 6, 8. I discard. Go.
Exactly where you want to be as the control player.
Discarding.
Discarding lands.
All right, let's see what Rob Castellon has up his sleeve.
End of your turn, draw.
And a turn, Uri cycles Azorius Charm, draw card. Does it again. You've got to think that Uri Peleg's in pretty good control of this game right now. He's going to be flying across with the Sky Knight, dropping Castellon to 6. That's going to put him on a 2-turn clock.
+1.
You're going to +1 the Jace.
Go.
And say go. Again, Castellon down to a single card in hand, plus the one he's just drawn, which is another Voice of
In
Resurgence.
response, renounce the guilds. No, I won't.
Yep.
Sorry?
So,
Yeah, can I not play it?
Okay.
Okay, sure.
Close it
Okay,
in.
good sportsmanship there.
okay.
I mean, I think he said no fast enough. I don't want to do that fast.
Okay.
It wasn't wait, look for a response. No, I don't want to play it.
Attack you.
Play it. No, wait a minute, don't play it.
13.
Ooh. Scavenge the Deadbridge Goliath onto the Sin Collector and bash.
Okay, that takes Uri down to 14. 2 Render Silence and an Angel of Serenity.
I will take the Angel of Serenity,
You have one
thanks.
card?
One card.
1 card.
Which we know is an overgrown 2.
There's got to be some reasonable.
I'll take
Well, you take the 2 Render Silence because I mean, he's just going to fly over and kill him, right?
Go to 3.
Yeah.
3.
Attacks him for 3, takes Castellon to 3. And now he just sits on the Render Silent. And there's really not much that Rob Castellon's going to be able to do.
Did I
Another
play land?
Another Jace.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I mean, when you resolve 3 Jaces in a game, you're going to have a good
Yeah.
part of.
-2. Yeah, take that.
I'll take the Cyclonic Rift, thanks.
Go, I need to
Yeah,
discard.
all driver's seat for Uri Peleg here in game 2.
Discard 3 lands.
And Castellon scoops him up, and we're going to move to game 3.
You have a cool deck.
I like
There
it.
you hear
It's worked well so far.
Uri saying to Rob, you have a cool deck. It is a pretty cool deck, but it's got Death Bridge chance, so it's by definition cool. Phaedon is the greatest thief in the multiverse. Follow his adventures in the Magic the Gathering comic produced by IDW. Special promo card unique to the IDW comic series comes in each issue. Find out more about these comics at wizards.com/magic merchandise.
So I would like to point out that we talked about taking the judge shirt off, Rob Castellon.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, he didn't. I'm looking at the back of his shirt.
Right,
It says judge.
Should get maybe there could be like color-coded T-shirts by level. You get the burgundy, you get the maroon for level 2, and the gold for level 5. Good sweeping overhead view of our feature match area. There's Zvi Moshowitz, Eric Froelich, the back table, and our own Rashad Miller and Nate Price watching the action back there. Tip the hat from Rashad.
Yeah, it was very interesting there. We saw just how the Angel of Serenity took over that game. Can we take a look at the Angel of Serenity?
We may.
Talk about this.
As a matter of fact. Here we go.
This has just been a dominating creature since it made its debut in Return to Ravnica. Had a lot of fun in Standard playing around with Thrag Tusks.
Yeah.
But, it's, you get to use it very flexibly. We've seen people do both things with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like clear the board, get rid of that pesky token, or, just like have this redundancy where I get to like bring my things back from the dead.
Yeah, it's real nice wrath protection, because if you take away your own stuff, you're either going to get beaten down by the Angel if you get rid of the Angel. Now the other player's got 3 different guys coming your way.
Right.
So it does have a lot of flexibility, and one of the things about that flexibility is it's a leaves the battlefield trigger, not a dies trigger. So if it gets bounced, it still happens.
Right. Right. And I find it interesting. I found it interesting that it returned the creatures to your hand and not to the battlefield, which is what so many of those kind of like, faceless butcher type effects generally do. But apparently there were too many combos.
Yeah, well, especially bringing 3 cards back would be kind of absurd.
Including bringing creatures back from your graveyard into play.
Right.
I will reanimate my Angel of Serenity and then kill it to reanimate these other 3 creatures. So yeah, that's probably pretty crazy, and we see it with Unburial Rights quite a bit.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a great card.
But the most important element of that card, though, for Uri Peleg there was, just big and flying.
Yeah. Okay. Report from that back table that you see there is that Zvi Moshowitz has dropped game 2 to Eric Froelich. They are now tied at 1 game apiece.
That's Band Control and Esper Control.
And Patrick Chapin has taken down Matt Nass 2-0. So another Hall of Famer moving on and doing well. So I have a report from Level 2 Judge Michael Fortino in Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
That says Rob Castellon's judge nickname is Princess Buttercup.
Okay.
More on that story as it develops.
So I noticed you had your judge phone out, your secret judge network.
We have one.
Yeah, I know.
We talk about you all. No, we never talk about you.
Yeah.
Ever.
He has a very good mana base. I have a ridiculous mana base.
There's Rob talking about the relative sanity levels of their mana bases between the two of them. And they're both looking at their hands. On the mulligans, Rob keeps. Uri says, me too. Michael Fortino says, you are awesome.
Oh, Tom, thank you.
Yeah, he meant me, not you.
You could see why I would misconstrue that.
I cannot, as a matter of fact. All right, Voice of Resurgence. I think we've seen about a dozen of those played in this match. And Renounce the Guilds takes it out right away, bringing back our favorite Rashad Miller token. There's the Gate Grabber, as I like to call it. Gate Creeper Vine being the real name. Oh, looks he just went and got a swamp.
Yeah, so he'll probably play a gate now this turn, but then he wants to be able to play the swamp next turn.
For the slaughter games.
For the slaughter games, yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
Here's Gatekeeper Vine up on your screen. Card that we surprisingly didn't see in the Maze's End deck.
Yeah,
I
I was kind of surprised by that.
Sorry? Oh, okay, yeah.
Sin Collector coming down for Rob Castellon.
Having black mana in play.
Uh-oh.
Okay, who caught it?
I caught it
Yeah.
before he even.
Okay,
revealed his
so
hand.
he's started. He cast the Sin Collector, which he can't do because he has no black mana.
So-
immediately called the judge on himself.
If you catch it, like if you catch it right away, that's okay.
So he calls it on
But
himself.
obviously, it doesn't get cast.
Obviously, it doesn't
Yeah,
cast.
yeah, yeah,
He's got to play the black land.
Yeah, he has a
Now
swamp
he's
in-
going to cast it.
I have a swamp in my hand
Yep.
that he knows about. I play the swamp and
There we go. Easy resolution. Certainly
You
nothing.
feel good about that?
Yeah, nothing sketchy. I mean,
Like
there was
what
nothing.
this system-
Obviously, nothing sketchy trying to happen there because he went and got the swamp.
Okay, so he says that's, is he saying that's resolved?
We're announced to kill.
Okay, he renounces the guilds to kill the
Collector
token,
target, yep.
which is multicolored.
Okay, Supreme Verdict. Another Renounce the Guilds. An Aetherling, a Plains, and a Jace Architect of Thought. Again, Ori resolved
It
three
takes
of
to
those.
renounce the guilds.
He likes his multicolored permanents,
You done?
go ahead.
as opposed to the Supreme Verdict.
Yeah.
Why do you think he might have done that?
I guess he doesn't really care if you Supreme Verdict away his Sin Collector and Gatekeeper Vine.
16.
Well, but eventually he's going to play guys, so. Theoretically, I guess you have to tap out for Supreme Verdict. Oh, there's the slaughter games. I mean, he knows there's nothing in
Four
Peleg's
cards.
hand.
Yeah.
I'll name Jace.
Wow.
Jace, Architect of Thought. Naming Jace in this format not ambiguous like it might be in Standard.
Now, did Uri Peleg get in his head at all by saying, "Oh, it's interesting that you took the Aetherling. Why would you take the Aetherling?"
Yeah.
And now doesn't take the Aetherling. Is that something that he can win in 3 turns with once he? I mean, it's still a whiles away from getting on the board.
Right. So potentially a little, but I mean,
Yeah, Jace is a fine pick there.
sure. Well, I mean, it takes away a significant amount of Uri's card advantage
Yeah.
now. I mean, the revelation, the Sphinx's revelation, all he has left on the card draw end.
Yep.
Sin Collector getting in for another attack.
16.
Castellon shocks himself.
Yeah, sure.
So, yes, your Deadbridge Chant resolves. We'll see a hand.
10 cards into the graveyard. We'll get the report from Rashad if there's anything really awesome.
Oh, you have Maze's End?
Oh, you have the Maze's End.
No, I don't. I don't have any blue gates.
Oh, he
boy.
gives away the
Lot of games tonight.
gives away
Very-
information.
Very sportsmanlike
Yeah.
match going on here. No, it's just a Thawing Glaciers.
Go.
I have 12 cards in my graveyard. So 1 is the top, 12 is the bottom. 7. Forest to my hand.
So he gets a forest in hand.
Kodasevich and Castle have tied their matchup 1 game apiece. They're going to be going to game 3.
So just drawing 2 cards a turn now for
Okay.
Castellon.
Eh,
Pretty exciting.
All fails, slam Sire.
And he slams Sire of
draw that?
Insanity.
No.
No, I had both these in my hand. This was the bait for the counter magic.
Okay. Yeah, so that resolves.
Trigger.
So I discard, right?
Yep, we both discard.
everybody discards. That's a real bad news for Uri Peleg. Sire of Insanity is going to keep him off of drawing a bunch of cards. So he's got to, I mean, he's got to live in top deck mode.
Yeah, and it
And
really,
hope for Supreme Verdict, and then he's still got to deal with Deathbridge
I'm
Chant.
on 12, right?
I have you at 12, yeah.
Uri Peleg's at 12, Rob Castellon is at 16, and that Sire of Insanity has really changed this board position.
like we've drawn something. I don't know what Uri's looking at.
He's looking up and doing some math, maybe.
Oh, I can't test it. I'm sorry.
Oh.
So I discarded it.
Can't cast it.
Trigger.
Yeah.
I have 13 cards, so 14 or higher is reroll. 5.
Let's get back. Oh, Voice of Resurgence.
Oh, look, just right into play. How nice.
Yeah, I mean, we see Rob Castellon's
Rob's
deck
gonna,
gaining some steam here.
and then he's gonna
Scavenge
scavenge
the
on
Goliath.
Yeah, and
There
that's-
it is. Rob Castellon finishes day 1 as the only undefeated player.
I have a new favorite deck in this tournament.
Okay.
I think so.
You're so
And a new-
fickle.
and a
Matchup
new
against you
favorite
is a lot
judge.
worse than it is against Esper
Sorry,
because of
Sheldon.
Renounce the Guilds.
Hey,
Renounce the Guilds is very
has
good
Rob
against me.
Castellon ever fed you bison ribeyes in his
If
own
you
home?
weren't stuck
Not that
on
I'm aware
mana,
of.
I probably would have named Renounce the Guilds with Slaughter Games instead of,
All right, so Rob Castellon
Jace,
takes down
Hillary.
Peleg
I
2
figured
games to
if you
1.
drew
We'll
an
see
island,
if we're
Jace
going to
would be
get
back into
to
the
some
game.
other
So I took the Jace
action.
on your
We've
hand.
got,
I
we
don't
know
know
we
if I
have
was right, so
Zvi
that
Moshowitz and Efro match going on in the back.
And I think we're gonna get to talk to Rob Castellon beforehand and find out a little bit more about his deck from Rashad Miller.
That sounds like that would be a great idea. That, I mean, it is. I mean, Uri Peleg said after game 1, he said, "I really like your deck."
Yeah.
So
I'm very excited to see Dead Perchant. It's one of the cards we put up in the preview that we shot on Thursday, and it was kind of like, oh boy, I hope this shows. You know, you're always like, man, I hope this shows up. But I mean, it's just a sweet card, and I like what he also said. He's like, oh, this was the bait for the counter magic. So if you let this resolve, that's fine for me. And
because I got the Sire of Insanity is the real wheel card in that game.
so it looks like those guys are set up to talk, but
You're gonna run out and play this deck in the onlines tonight.
I might
Just go build
gold
it.
queue with it a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's cool. I mean, we like toolboxy kind of decks. We like to be able to do different kind of stuff.
Let's find
So,
out a little bit more from
let's-
Rob himself about what went into that deck.
Down to the feature match area and Rashad Miller.
Hey guys, Rashad Miller here with Rob Castellon, piloting BDM's new favorite deck of the tournament. So we all want to know, where'd the deck come from? Why are you playing it today?
We were testing a red, white, black deck with Sire of Insanity as the top end and Obsdat, and we really liked it. But we couldn't actually beat mono red, which was a big issue. And we also liked the green, white, black deck, but it had a harder time with Esper. So we made green, white, black, splashing Sire of Insanity.
Now there was a we in there. Who's we? Who are we testing with?
Some guys from home, my brother Mike, my buddy Eric, who is the one who got me into Magic.
Where's home?
I live in Kittery, Maine.
It's a long ways from you're a long ways from home. So I also heard through the grapevine that you have a nickname. Do you care to share what this nickname is?
I'm a level 2 judge, so I've judged far more events, and the Florida judges have taken to calling me Princess Buttercup.
And is there a story behind this?
There's a story, yep.
Is it a long story?
No, basically we went out to dinner one night. Everyone else ordered, 2-pound steaks. I ordered a shark steak, and apparently it was 6 ounces, and it was served on the same size plate as all of the other steaks. So there was a lot of white space where everyone else had blood and meat. And Ben McDowell, L3 judge from Florida, said, "Hey Buttercup, you got enough food there?" That was GP Orlando about a year and a half ago, and it stuck.
All right, this is Rob Castellon, the man with the best tokens in the tournament. Send it back to the booth.
All right. Princess Buttercup is the only 8-0 player in day 1, and looks like we are going to get back to the Zvi Moshowitz Eric Froelich match. There's a lot of permanence in play there.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. We see a Jace, a Sin Collector, a Blood Baron, Viscopa, a Night Veil Spectre.
Do I look a man who has cards to cast?
And
That's what I thought. Go ahead.
seemingly frustrated.
And an incredulous Zvi Moshowitz. How did you get all that stuff into play?
I don't know why you're bringing the cameras over here, guys.
Yeah.
It's tied at 1 apiece. Zvi saying he doesn't,
I'm at 8.
not quite
You
sure
shouldn't
why
bother.
we brought the camera over, because he thinks it's over. All right, so
Debating what the line is on the miracle comeback. I guess if I change Sphinx's Revelations and you have no counters in your hand.
Zvi talk about the possibilities.
Except the one that
He's
I
at
know you
8.
have.
Eric Froelich is at 12.
I have to start with Supreme Verdict, right? So I can get those out the game.
Yeah, anything's possible. Right?
Anything is possible, says Eric Froelich. So Zvi in his hand has a Syncopate and a Cancel. So he's not
This
on
might
anything
resolve, right?
all that exciting.
Here's Eric Froelich's hand. So we
Oh,
know
we're big gaming now.
no way is that going to resolve. Get extra
Can't win a
token.
counter war, he's got my Dispel. Go ahead. A few more of those, nothing big enough to fight.
All right, Froelich on taps. Seemingly clearly in the driver's seat. -2's Jace to get the mini Factor Fiction that we're not seeing quite. Let's see if we can get there. We go in the overhead, and we'll get the spotters
know how
to
that mode's
update the
gonna hit me
hand, see
good.
what he
So
kept
many
there.
revelations in my hand.
You're like,
Drops
I
an
don't
island,
wanna
comes
discard,
in
I'm
with
lazy.
the Night Veil Spectre.
My hand's like 10 cards anyway.
Brutal.
They
Mills
haven't found green
away
line yet, though.
a Voice of
Yeah, I'm just
Resurgence.
getting really unlucky.
I know, you run so bad.
Underworld Connections.
Sure.
Your turn.
Underworld connections there, and Zvi's just sort of languishing.
Zvi looking for a miracle.
Until it is actually mathematically
That could be more beat
impossible
up.
for him to win. Zvi is not going to just concede
Go ahead.
in the face of overwhelming.
Yeah.
Night Veil Spectre, by the way, is kind of a little bit of a breakout card here.
Yeah, I mean, if it deals combat damage, it exiles the top card of the library. I mean, it will
put it
really
back on
keep
top of
you
your
off
deck.
a lot of stuff.
Which is working sometime in a million years, I guess.
2 cards.
Yeah. 5 untapped lands. Okay.
So Azorius Charm puts the Night Veil Spectre back on top of Eric Froelich's deck,
Oh, there's
and
Etherlink.
he slams an Etherlink.
Judge,
Or
she
as
can't
some
play these
players on
cards
Twitter have called it, they call it question markling.
Yeah,
Where did it go?
Yeah,
on top of the
there,
library.
there you go.
you gotta know.
Yeah,
You gotta know how to use the ASCII characters to get the AE. Zvi is gonna try to dispel that.
He cancels it.
Cancel it. Sorry.
Ether has the dispel.
Mhm.
And Zvi says sure.
Actual no outs in format. Pretty sure. Go ahead.
Guildgate, not much help for Zvi Moshowitz.
Come on, Night Veil Spectre.
Underworld
Yeah.
Connections. We have Moshowitz is at
Where'd that
6.
come from?
Efro is at 9.
He's just dead to Etherlink here.
And this is game 3.
Yeah.
He is just
No blocks.
dead.
Pump it twice. Counter.
You know,
He's like,
start
pump it
on
twice,
tap, up
counter.
and down, up and down. Just keep me on their toes.
There are no trick binds. There's the handshake. Eric Froelich takes down Zvi Moshowitz 2-1. The last of our feature matches here for round 8 Pro Tour Dragons Race. Oh, we do have another match going on.
Oh, we get to look at another Hall of Famer. Darwin Castle is playing against Igor
Can I keep this
Kosovic.
one?
That thing gets around.
So it looks like we're going to run over to the other table.
I'll put a regeneration.
Just a little bit of time left here in the round.
Yeah. And the second game came down to he drew land 4 first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like,
Same thing on my match against Bob.
We'd like to thank Gaming Etc. for being an official card retailer here at Pro Tour Dragons Maze. Use the promo code PTSAN when ordering on GamingEtc.com to earn 10% off all singles and accessories. For more information, visit GamingEtc.com. Our Hall of Famers are doing relatively well.
Yeah.
Couple of terrible
I mean,
plays
you know,
in the game too.
it turns out they're really good at Magic. Oh, it looks like the game just ended, actually, before we could get the camera set up for the Darwin Castle match. But
And
Igor
Kotasevich
Kotasevich wins.
wins 2-1.
So that puts Darwin Castle to 6-2, I believe.
That's That's still gonna get him on day 2 relatively easily. Here we are back in the booth. I'm Sheldon Menery. I'm sitting beside Brian David Marshall, and we have brought you all the hot action from Pro Tour Dragon's Maze. 8 rounds through, a lot of good stories, a lot of interesting decks. See anything we didn't expect today?
So I was pretty surprised when I saw the Maze's End deck.
Uh-huh.
And I was even more surprised when I saw the Maze's End deck with only 6 Guild Gates perform better than the Maze's End deck with 20 Guild Gates.
Right. Rob Castellon, as we saw on camera here just moments ago, going to 8-0, the only undefeated with his
Deadbridge Chant deck. Let's call it Deadbridge Chant.
Deadbridge Chant deck. Does he have a name on his deck list?
He calls it 4-color mid-range, but that is very judgy.
That shows us a lack of imagination for Rob. Let's get him to name the deck. Maybe,
at the very least, you have to call it Buttercup Control.
Right. Do you think that the Maze's End deck can have the legs to get through day 2? I mean, she's a great player.
Depends on which version you're talking about. There's a couple. There's I believe 3 different versions of the Maze's End deck that we saw in the metagame breakdown. The deck is obviously well positioned against certain decks, but those decks do have a game plan in game 2 to become more creature oriented. The control decks can sort of dial down a little bit, get in under the critical turns for the Maze's End deck. It's not all this like long control battle with lots of dead cards. That's only game 1.
Right.
So I'm not sure how that deck's going to do. It's going to be, I think, a very interesting thing to follow down the stretch of day 2 tomorrow after we go through 3 more rounds of draft, which will mix things up.
Right. How have we seen in the past where relatively inexperienced players get to the end of day 1 as one of the undefeateds and moved in? Rob Castellon doesn't have a lot of Pro Tour points, but I mean he's playing really, really well. What's your experience tell you that day 2 brings to a guy of his experience?
We find out a lot about him, about how he drafts when he's sitting down with Shota Yoka and LSV and Martin Yuza and Ben. Often you see these tables and they're stacked, and stacked with players who. It's not only a matter of playing against players that experience, but players who've drafted at that level of just draft tables where you have 30 top Pro Tour top 8s, in your practice session.
Right.
So, can he, how is he gonna react to the signals that they're sending? It's always interesting to watch, and you find out a lot about a player in that draft on day 2.
Again, I think one of the burgeoning stories here at Pro Tour Dragon's Maze is we've got a lot of Hall of Famers who are doing really, really well. Bob Marr, Gabe Nassif is doing relatively well.
I think John Finkel, Darwin Castle, Patrick Chapin, we just saw him, I believe, go to 7-1, maybe 6-2. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the standings yet. But I think that's tied to another story, and that's the story about teams. Because no Hall of Famer wants to come to the event and make a schmuck of himself.
Sure.
You know what I mean? He's like, I don't want to go there and just
the 0-2 and go home. Yeah.
Futz around for a couple rounds, and I don't know the cards. Because the way these teams have set up, they can go to the city, sit down, work with some of the best players that they have access to, get caught up to speed, and hit the format running for round 1. So I think that's a big part of it. The 2 things go hand in hand. But
well, I like that's our drive to win that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
All right, that's going to be it from the booth here at Pro Tour Dragon's Maze. I'm Sheldon Menery, he's Brian David Marshall, and we're going back to the news desk.
A little busy.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the news desk, going through all the results that are coming in. We will of course give you a full end of day wrap shortly, but just wading through some of the numbers. Daniel Ahlberg with a Maze's End deck, he's defeated Robert Jurkovic. Jurkovic now 6-1-1. That is a disappointing end to Jurkovic's day. Remember, he was 6-0 going into the match with Bob Marr last round. So a draw and a loss to end a day that began with 6 straight wins. He'll need to regroup overnight. 7-1 is Gabriel Nassif, 9-time Pro Tour competitor, of course, the champion of Kyoto, famously with his Cruel Ultimatum top deck. He is at 7-1 going into day 2. Brad Nelson, now this is a key result. He was playing John Stern. John Stern, 33 pro points this season, leads the Canadian World Magic Cup race, but only by 3 points from Alexander Hayne. Hayne, I believe, is on the Maze's End deck plan, the kind of turbo fog version of Maze's End, and Hayne's still in contention for the World Magic Cup slot. There, Dennis Rashid up to 6-2. He is definitely on Maze's End. And Bram Snetvangers, first time I've had a chance to talk to you about him, the Dutch Hall of Famer. He wins over Ben Stark. That's a big one. Going to 6-2, that puts Stark back to 5-3. And remember, Ben Stark is second in the Player of the Year race, 4 points adrift of Yuya Watanabe. Now, do we have a Watanabe result? I'm looking down on my result sheet here. Right now, I do not have a result for Yuya Watanabe, but he was right in the mix, doing very nicely. Thank you. Got to 4-0, then went to 4-1. We'll confirm where he is overnight shortly. Makihito Mahara, 7-1, the 2006 world champion, is right in there. Craig Wesco at 7-1. He played Rakdos during drafts. His deck seemed super solid, and then lots of little white 1-drops turning sideways. What a shock. That's what Craig Wesco really, really does. And I said Jurkovic dropped to 6-1-1. Bob Marr has done the same. He lost 2-1 to Mark Eilers. And so Marr, again, 6-0. Jurkovic and he draws. And then last round, they both lose. So we'll give you full standings shortly. Brian David Marshall, hot out of the booth, is tracking down the final standings to see where we are overnight. But one thing we can be sure of is that the man to my left will go to bed tonight leading the Pro Tour. 387 players are still behind him, and standing proudly alone, Rob Castellon. Rob, congratulations. Welcome to the studio, and what a day.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Okay, so honesty time now. What were your goals coming into day 1?
My goals for the Pro Tour was to not go 08.
Yeah, you did that. Well, I mean, kind of. I mean, you very nearly went 08.
I went the wrong way.
Yeah, yeah. So, first question, let's go right back to the start. You're 24 now, right?
Yeah.
24. So, when does Magic come into your life?
I played from around Ice Age to Scourge, just casually. Okay. And then Alara Reborn, I started playing at a local store. I'm from Kittery, Maine. Started playing at a store over in New Hampshire. And about a year later, I certified as a judge. And
okay, so what was the appeal of Magic first time around? Because if you're playing in Ice Age, just doing a rough calculation, that's around about 1996. That's the best part of 17 years.
About 8 years old.
Right. So what was the appeal of Magic when you're looking at these Ice Age packs and icy manipulators and so on?
I had a brother that was about 6 years older than me, so I wanted to do stuff with him.
Right. So you got to play with the grown-ups kind of thing. All right. That's pretty awesome.
And it wasn't very good.
Well, just pretty awesome just to be able to just pass everything that's going on at 8. So then you come back with Alara Reborn. What brings you back to the game then?
I graduated college, and one of my friends I was playing World of Warcraft with was like, hey, you should get back into Magic, and I got back into Magic.
So that's the playing side. But judging is a very different thing. It's as different as watching sport on your TV and wanting to be a goalie in the NHL. They're not the same things. So how do you end up as a judge? What's the appeal there?
Shortly before the M11 pre-release, our local store realized we needed a judge, and I was the most capable person at that point, and I had the most free time. So I went to a regional pre-release and walked up to a random judge and was like, hey, how do I get into judging? And it turned out to be Eric Shukan, who's a level 3, head judge nationals that year. Okay. He was a good person to randomly approach.
In a gentle way, a bit of a deal. Yeah. What one could say. All right. To what extent does being a judge inform your playing of the game? Are you aware when you play people today, or just even at your local game store, of kind of knowing more than they do about what's, if you like, really happening underneath the fairly loose terminology that most of us employ?
I did have a match this morning where my opponent attacked with a trample creature. I blocked it, he blood rushed it, and then he did his combat math wrong. which meant that he was using the shortcut of, I'm killing your creature really hard with trample and not doing any of it over.
Oh, that
so
was silly.
once he wrote down life totals, I wrote down life totals, and then he went, oh wait, you're supposed to take 3 more from trample, and
You're like, well, no.
actually this is the way the rules work.
Sure. I'm going to have to choose my words carefully here because my judge friends will not like me if I say this wrong. There is a kind of myth, that's a good word, there is a myth that goes around that judges can't play Magic very well. There aren't many judges who've been 8-0 on day one of a Pro Tour. Do you feel supported by the judge community, or do you feel in some way the pressure of expectation because of the reputation that judges sometimes have at the highest level?
What was Melissa's record at the last PT on day one?
Fair.
Melissa is also a level 2 judge. She's a player that's also a judge, whereas I judged 11 Grand Prix last year. Like, I am primarily a judge. The only reason I qualified for the Pro Tour is because I forgot to reply to the email asking if I wanted to be on staff for a PTQ.
So you went to a PTQ to judge and you hadn't realized you weren't on the staff?
No, I realized the week before that I had never responded to the email, but I'd already made plans on going. So the night before, I threw together the only deck I had cards for, which was Blue-White Control and Modern with Sun Titan and Sphinx's Revelation, Supreme Verdict.
As you do.
And I went 7-0-1 in the Swiss, and then 3-0 in the top 8.
Is that literally the best email you've never sent?
Yeah, probably.
Pretty much has to be, right? So I heard you talking on the set just after you went 8-0. You're saying you got buddies who you were testing with. As a high-level judge, you say you've judged all these Grand Prix. You see the human side of all these big names sitting on top of the leaderboard because you see them 6 times a year around the North American Grand Prix circuit. Does that help in remembering that actually every game of Magic is just 2 guys or girls and some cards rather than the 2006 world champion Makehita Mahara of Japan?
I go to enough events that I see the really, really good players scrub out. So I get to see that side of it.
Because every so often, they will not make
it
day
happens. 2. But the actual interactions aren't really there. I think the only time I've hung out with pro players was at Grand Prix Atlanta last year. We were playing Werewolf till like 5 in the morning with Alexander Payne and a couple other people.
Yeah, people tend to do that at GPs, I can tell you, overnight.
It happens.
Today, you have faced 2 world champions, 2 consecutive world champions, in fact. You have 2006 world champion Makehita Mahara, 2007 champion Yuri Peleg. Beat both of them. So now, you didn't want to go 08, managed that. So now what about tomorrow? Same again, just don't want to go 08 again? Where's the goal shifted a bit?
Win a couple matches tomorrow, I don't know.
Win a couple, maybe 4.
See, I've never played at a Pro Tour, so I have no idea how the math is going to work out. So all I can do is go 8-0 tomorrow to make top 8, right?
If you talk to Luis Scott Vargas, he will assure you that if you go 16-0, you will make top 8. Anecdotally, that is likely to be enough.
Okay.
I'm prepared to go that far.
Right.
Generally, we don't speculate with players about what records they might need. If you go 16-0, I will shake your hand and say, I'm confident you're in, even before the final standings occur.
Right.
That's a deal. What is the appeal of judging? What's the excitement?
You get to go to all of the Magic events, and you get to hang out with people that have the same common interests as you, like nerdy, awkward people that are just fun to hang out with. Yeah,
What?
You people at home.
What is he talking about? I don't understand at all.
Fun to hang out with.
Fun to hang out with, that I understand.
At the end of the day, judging is work, but it's a lot of fun.
Okay. I would imagine, though, and you come across as a very calm guy. We haven't interacted really before today, but you come across as a very calm guy. Nonetheless, I would imagine that in the feature match area, round 8, a former world champion, chance to be the only undefeated player at a Pro Tour that you just didn't send an email for, heart must have been pounding a bit.
I didn't know that I was going to be the only undefeated. I actually saw that on the TV over there. I wasn't really paying attention to the standings, so I saw my name go across on the bottom. I didn't realize that was going to happen. I had never heard of Yuri Peleg before being introduced to him just now.
Handy.
And as far as the nerves go, I did cast a Sin Collector without any black mana.
Good effort. Talking right. There's hope for us all.
With a basic swamp in hand.
So let me tell you, Rob Castellon here, 8-0. He leads the field. But what else is going on in the field? Let's get across to the video wall. It's time for our end of day wrap. Rich Hagan and Brian David Marshall coming your way about 5-10 seconds from now. Hello everyone, welcome to the Tournament Centre for the final time on day one. Rich Hagan and the Pro Tour story, Mr. Brian David Marshall, hot out of the commentary box. BDM, we began with 3 rounds of draft, but then 5 rounds of block constructed, which you were in the booth right front and centre for. Pretty interesting day all round.
Yeah, really interesting. We got to see a number of different takes on control, which was clearly the most popular strategy in the field, although people took a lot of different approaches. We saw Esper control, we saw band control, we saw Azorius control, saying like, you know what, I don't want to shock myself with my lands. I don't want to stumble on playing a guild gate so I can get my mana right. I want to just come out of the gates. And then we saw a number of other decks. We saw a Maze's End deck win a game with Maze's End. We saw it almost win a game on a mull to 3.
Pretty bonkers.
It came very close to being able to win on a trick of multi 3. We also saw, again, you just had Rob Castellon in there at 8-0 playing a Deadbridge Chant deck. Remember we had the Deadbridge Chant on the slide?
Yes, we did. Really?
You were like, really? Are we going to see that? I'm like, I don't know. I think maybe it's really, And that you just saw it in action. It was terrific.
Yeah, I also loved the fact that he talked about, so we had this one deck, it had Sire of Insanity, but it kind of lost to this deck. And then we had this other deck, which we liked, which had Voice of Resurgence, but it lost to this other deck. So then we thought, well, what if we just go Frankenstein? And we essentially go Voice of Resurgence, Sire of Insanity, put them together, now we beat everything.
I've heard about a couple of Venn diagram deck building scenarios.
That's it, isn't it? It's a Venn diagram.
It is a Venn diagram. We heard about at least one team playing control deck. One player came up with this version of the control deck. This other person came up with this version of the control deck. They were like, oh, these decks are like, 51.5 cards overlap. And so they were like, okay. And then they started sorting out what the remaining cards were.
Frank Carsten would love it. He really would. Let's tell you what the top of the standings look like. Rob Castellon of the United States, perfect record 24. 22 points, the other undefeated player, but with a draw against him. From the United States, Mark Eilers. BDM, talk us through the 21 points, the 7-1.
So Igor Kostadevich, Simon Bertier, this is a player you've talked about a fair amount, and we saw he built a number of decks that people were playing.
He built Peleg's deck.
Yeah.
Peleg and Bertier between them, 9-1 in constructed.
So this is the Azorius control deck.
This is Aetherling for the win.
Yeah.
This is Carlos Ramau, by the way, from Worlds back in the day. This is, you can do anything in the world that you like in this game of Magic until you decide that my Aetherling will not be on the battlefield. And then you will be wrong, and then I will win the Pro Tour.
And I noticed they also have more Aetherling.
More Aetherling, more hard counters, more wins.
Yeah, I really like that deck. Dustin Fader from the U.S., former world champion Makihito Mahara, and former world champion Uri Peleg, both at 7-1. I'd love to see the two of them in a match tomorrow.
Yeah.
They'll be sitting at the same draft table, so we might see that.
Certainly will. And then when you look at the sort of the next potential draft table, you're looking at the likes of Craig Wesco, Oliver Polat-Rotman, who we saw at the very first draft of the day, the Austrian.
Hall of Famer, Pro Tour champion 2 times, Gabriel Nassif, Daniel Alberg. By the way, the last 21 party, we talked about a lot of the teams. We didn't mention Team Legit MTG. This is a team of players, a lot of PTQ winners, people led by Andrew Shrout. This was sort of the most notable player. Magic Online player. Andrew Shrout, 7-1. So good job on him.
Must also mention Orin Swift, currently in 8th place. We missed out there. Jurkovic is in 14th on 19 points. Also on 19 points, Bob Marr. That was the draw against each other.
Right.
Marr, a tremendous story, but I bet both Jurkovic and Marr will be disappointed coming out 6-1-1 after the 6-0 start.
One of the things I love talking to Bob about coming to this event is he's like, he's like, I feel a little bit of the arrogance coming back. You know, a little bit of the saltiness. You know, he's kind of like came into this and he's like, but you know what? He's like, I actually spent a couple days preparing for this event. I worked at this. I got together. I came out here early. He's like, you know, and he just feels like he's like this litmus test for players. He's like, do you deserve to be here? Prove it. You know, beat me.
Yeah. Beat me.
And that's at the table. Once he walks away from the table, he's a pussycat. But at the table, he's a monster.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to be.
Yeah.
Kai, John, Bob, Zvi, they're all actually terrifying. If you're not as in the same league as they are,
sure.
And they let you know in the nicest way that you're kind of honored to be there and that shortly you'll be signing a slip that says you've lost.
They end the match with a good job, good effort.
Yeah, thanks for trying. See you next time. Yeah, and just terrific guys all, but at the table, tough.
So, you know, lots of Hall of Famers. By the way, Darwin Castle-Mess, sitting here on 6-2.
Reed Duke, 6-2. Tomohiro Saito, 6-2. Dave Schaffman. Stephen Mann.
Yeah, Stephen Mann, that's
top 8 last
just
time.
coming off a top 8, exactly.
Josh Utter-Leighton in contention for Player of the Year.
Gerald, better known as Jim Bob Six Killer.
Indeed. Now,
sitting there.
Where is Yuya Watanabe? Let's scan down, and here we are, 42nd place, but at 6-2. That is a job very well done for Yuya Watanabe. He is on course.
And if he held par, right, if he just like, if he just went X-2 tomorrow,
that basically takes him probably to the top 25, to the point where it becomes raise the trophy and Player of the Year at the same time. It's been a pretty epic day one. We do it all again tomorrow. 3 rounds of draft. We start with Dragon's Maze, we go back to Gatecrash, we go back to Return to Ravnica, and then, as we really do approach the Maze's End, will it be Aetherling? Will it be Maze's End? Will it just be Sphinx's Revelation? Because drawing cards is still really good.
How about Sire of Insanity?
Wow. Rob Castellon.
That card seemed fantastic.
Really did. Join us again tomorrow. Thanks so much for being with us through 8 tumultuous rounds. Let's do it all again tomorrow. Rich Hagan, Brian David Marshall, on behalf of everyone here, MagicTheGathering.com.